or I guess technically season 3, chapter 2, mission 7. Yeah, I think that works. London mission 7 at the very least. You have been contacted by, well, through Lewis Earl is your fixer in this case, who has a Mr. Johnson who previously offered this job. Nobody took it. So the Mr. Johnson is now substantially more concerned about making sure that this happens ASAP, and therefore is basically saying, I'm willing to pay pretty well for a really simple job. I just need somebody trustworthy who is unassociated with me to do this job. Basically a protection job. Not a protection racket, but a legitimate protection.
Oh, damn, I brought the wrong suit.
So we've got Okami, Whiskey, West End Mike, Sybil, Athena, Orchid, and Pink expressed interest, but apparently she isn't showing up to the meeting with the Johnson. So Whiskey and Orchid, I believe, already worked with her. And Okami, you did or not?
Think so.
No, it was Pirate. It was Pirate. So yeah,
Okay.
so it's only Whiskey and Orchid who know Pink is perhaps a bit of a flake.
Heh, the whiskey, I like that.
Well, actually, Orchid was there on the last mission. It was Orchid and Prodigy.
Yes, but this time I'm just saying the only two in the current job that know Pink are Whiskey and Orchid, and I think both of them have a low opinion of her already. So the fact that she's not at the meeting with the Johnson doesn't surprise either of them. But hey, feel free to be surprised if you feel Whiskey and or Orchid would be surprised by this. I just think it would be reasonable for them not to be.
Oh, not really. Probably took a bunch of hits too many again.
And Lewis Earl is one of the well-known fixers who basically made connections with Khaled as soon as she arrived. Oh, sorry. Kaldfish, whatever her latest alias is. And through her, those of you who have already associated with Voyne and Callie would know Lewis Earl. Those of you who came here of your own volition have probably heard of him because he makes sure that people who are Shadowrunners know him. He gets out there. And I think really out of character, not that any of you know this in character, but Orchid's probably the least aware of Lewis Earl. Not that she'd, reveal that fact, but the newbie's interested in taking jobs. And Lewis Earl is the fixer who tends to do the jobs that are of corporate backing. And I can't remember. Did we say if he verified this Johnson or if this Johnson was unverified?
I think you posted that in the BBM. Let me check.
No, I definitely posted it in the BBM. I just don't remember off the top
Yeah,
of
I'm
my
checking.
head. Mission option C, was it?
I think it was A, actually.
No, this was, or A? Yes, okay. Yep. So, Mr. Johnson needs a young woman to be tailed to a job interview and have the interview observed in secret. If the young woman's life or livelihood appear to be at risk, do whatever it takes to get her out of the job interview safely. High pay, low danger. Contact was through Lewis Earl. It's a verified Mr. Johnson. If you fuck this up, you will earn a very powerful enemy. So that's what, in character, give or take, what you are all informed. High pay, low danger, no such thing. Well, the danger is in the screw up, Mike. So if you botch this, that's where the danger comes in. But should be doable without, dramatically big problems. So the meeting would likely take place at a, oh shit, what was the date on this job? That's kind of significant. Hippie bashing, celebrity, monkey cleanup, the raid. So you know what? This is probably going to be on Monday the 11th. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Taking place Monday the 11th. Put a bookmark on that, so if I forget. And this meeting will be taking place on the May 10th. So that's a Sunday. And it'll be pretty, no, actually, how late did this all happened pretty late, didn't it? Yeah, you know what? This is basically happening just after midnight. So technically it's on the 11th.
Hope everybody got some extra sleep this morning, or, earlier today, because it doesn't sound like we're going to have any time for naps.
No.
So it'll be at a relatively high quality but discreet bar that this will be taking place in. I don't believe any of you... I guess that's the big reason why Pink apparently isn't here, because getting into this neighborhood, not an easy thing for a girl like her. The rest of you have fake IDs, and you have enough clothing to at least look presentable when traveling into downtown London. So I think that's the best excuse for why Pink isn't here yet. And Lewis Earl would basically message you about which spot in the restaurant/bar to come to, and it would be a private but spacious booth with enough room for whiskey and the rest of you to take comfortable seats without being, packed in like sardines. And you will see the woman seated next to Lewis Earl. She looks a little bit taller than him, definitely has an Asian background. So Okami, you'd kind of recognize her as being most likely
User in your channel timed out.
not Japanese, but from one of the nearby countries. Oh, what was that?
Korea
just lost
or
Kara.
China or Vietnam, those kinds of places.
Yes, somewhat around those areas. She looks noticeably pale, so that's a little bit off, but hopefully Kara will be back soon. Come back to us, Kara. Come back. That totally interrupted my train of thought. Fuck.
Sorry.
No, not your fault. No need to apologize. Shit. How long should we give Kara?
Uh, 10, 15 minutes.
Can she be raised on
User in
BBM?
your channel is recording.
According to this, the message
Welcome
was...
back, Kara.
Oh, Kara's back. Beautiful. Okay. Yay. So Kara was just saying that the Mr.
Andre
John...
connected.
Oh, and Andre's here too. Okay. So glad to have you, Andre. Looks like Pink is going to be able to make it, if perhaps a little awkwardly arriving.
He isn't in the room yet, but he is connected on Mac Tools.
User in your channel is recording.
Alrighty. So Andre,
Hello.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
So we've had delays, mainly my fault. So you haven't missed anything technically. We were going to say that Pink couldn't make it to the meeting because it was in downtown London, but it looks like she made it anyway. So. All right, I was describing Lewis Earl is the fixer for this job. Usually the fixer isn't present during the meeting with the Johnson, but in this case, he is. And the Mr. Johnson, the token is visible, so you can see what she looks like. However, ignore the name for now, but it's a good quality, almost high quality bar that is discreet that this meeting is taking place in. God damn it. Andre's AFK. All right. We'll catch Andre up when he gets back. Lewis Earl welcomes you all to sit down in the booth where the Mr. Johnson is. And does anyone want to say or do anything before the introductions happen?
Then I'll just try to pose myself to be as polite and proper and professional as possible.
Order some coffee, since it's pretty early in the morning.
Whiskey will have a
just
snazzy
relaxing.
business suit on.
Considering that this place would probably be a place that actually is high end, it probably actually had good, proper, decent tea. So she would, Okami would order over that instead of coffee.
As long as your lifestyle necessities are at least middle, I won't make you have to pay for this.
She has that.
But it doesn't look like anybody's speaking up. So Lewis Earl will say thank you so much for all coming on such a short time frame. I'm glad that we've got some people who have agreed to take this mission for the Mr. Johnson here. And when he says Mr. Johnson, the Mr. Johnson scowls at him and says, "Excuse me, I'd rather you refer to me as Mrs. Jane." And Lewis Earl looks a little bit confused at first, but he'll recover quickly and nod and say, "Of course, Mrs. Jane. My apologies, everyone. This is the Mrs. Jane for this job." And
Personally, I'd go with Miss Jane. Now you kind of give away that you're married. Or are ya?
well,
Okami's just gonna rub the bridge of her nose underneath her glasses, just goes.
Lewis Earl will try to do a quick recovery, but Mrs. Jane seems none too fazed by Whiskey's outburst. And Lewis Earl's like, "All right, so I'm glad that we could all be here to make introductions, and I'm glad to see you face to face here, folks. But as I understand it, this job is on the clock, so if you don't mind, Mrs. Jane." So out of character, before Mrs. Jane speaks, do any of you want to say or do anything?
I guess I would just censor real quick. Just give a quick peek and then pop back out. Oh, I guess I could say quick peek, not staring. This is gonna be 9. Three hits.
Looks to be your typical corporate level individual. Very good control of her own emotions. She's got augmentation that is of a high quality grade, so it's very difficult for you to really ascertain the details of it. Probably not Deltaware, but at least Betaware.
Could I get
And-
locations?
Mainly in the brain, and looks like she probably has tailored pheromones.
So normal office worker kind of.
Not office worker, like power player in a corporation.
Oh, the one who does all the speaking for a corporation and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's worth remembering tailored pheromones are F-class augmentations. Regular people don't get those.
Yeah, like I'm saying, this is someone who's clearly speaks for a corporation, but it's not an agent. And okay.
No wired reflexes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, there is no combat augmentation in this individual.
No, so
But,
this is a person who does all the talking. And then they send the people who with the wide reflexes.
Well, again, you can't really determine what kind of cyberware is in her brain because it's of such a high quality that it kind of blends in with her aura. It doesn't stand out as much as common or secondhand cyberware does.
And
But you wouldn't really mix tailored pheromones with combat wear.
Some people do.
Some people
Remember
do. I'm
Bo?
just going
Whiskey
by.
does.
Okay. I was supposed to say generally, I just don't figure that those two, you would go for that as like a package deal.
Depends on what you do with your life. But Mrs. Jane does not have combat implants.
Sybil would be doing a scan.
So go ahead and make your roll.
Which should be a thread. I forgot to mention what rating.
Remember, for threading, you decide after the fact. So are you keeping all 5 hits?
I'm gonna do, yeah, I'll keep all 5. And then I gotta resist 5 drain.
Fading, but yes.
I take a stun. So, and I'm not in VR. 4 hits. Is that enough
So-
to detect any cyberware on her?
No, actually, you don't detect any cyberware. You detect one burner comlink, and it's obviously a burner comlink on her person. So out of character, to explain why that is, she has her cyberware shut off right now.
Okay.
So not that Sybil knows that. I'm just explaining for the players because the magic player detected cyberware, but the technomancer did not. It's because the cyberware does not have power going through it right now.
This is not somebody's first rodeo. You know, cyberware shut off. All but one phone is left at home, and the only one they brought is obviously a disposable, etc.
Well, it's funny you should say that, but just before I start speaking for Mrs. Jane, does anyone else want to do any preemptive activities?
Nope, don't think I can do much.
So you're at a medium high class bar in downtown London. It was pretty difficult for Pink to get here, actually. She probably was stopped at the entrance because I don't think Pink really has appropriate clothing for this location. But Lewis Earl would have vouched for her and got her into the building.
Seems about right.
Okay. So Mrs. Jane will say, as Lewis Earl said, thank you all. We are on the clock here. and I am just going to go ahead and get this on the table right now. I don't usually deal with deniable assets. This is literally my first time in this sort of situation, but don't think you can take advantage of me. My business uses individuals such as yourself on a regular basis, and I feel confident that I can pull the kind of leverage I need if anything goes wrong on this job. Foremost, I will expect discretion from all of you. I realize that it's natural for you to be curious about who you're working for, and that you might find a urge to learn of my identity or my profession. I will ask politely that you respect. Carol, what is she saying she would rather not?
No need anything. Or learn more about Mrs. Johnson.
Mrs. J.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So Orchid would rather not look into Mrs. Jane's background, but she's still making it clear that it is, she's politely requesting that you do not, because if you do and then try to leverage her identity against her in some way, there will be hell to pay. That is not meant as a threat, it is meant as a promise. The entire nature of this job requires discretion, so even if you stumble across information, she will expect you not to exploit it. That also goes for the individual who you will be, she kind of rolls her eyes up as she says this, shadowing for this job. She goes by the name of Posey Piper, and she'll press a few AR keys for her, or actually, you know what? She wouldn't even use AR. She would actually pull out the comm link and touch the, kind of like a touch screen cell phone, and basically send out a private message to each of you that has the photo and name of the individual attached. So I've just made the icon visible, and Mrs. Jane would continue to say, the same level of discretion I expect you extend towards my identity, I expect the same for Posey Piper. That is, of course, an alias for the young lady. Do not go digging into her actual identity. Please and thank you.
Is she applying for this job under her actual identity or the assumed one?
Thankfully, she is enough foresight to apply to the job with the alias.
All right.
And it's not that I have anything against this particular profession. It's just that Posey has certain responsibilities that if she were to take this job, there would be a conflict of interest. And she hasn't listened to reason. And I just want to make sure that the interview goes poorly enough that she will abandon this particular career.
So I was just about to ask if we were to help or hinder her get the job, but I figure from your directions, hinder, definitely.
Indeed. There's also a chance that this profession would be a hazard to her physical health. And if that is the case, then by all means reveal yourselves to her and ensure that she is removed with all due haste.
Can I maybe ask about what this profession is exactly?
Adult entertainment.
What type of rank? Like fit, pred, BTL, actual, life escort
I
services?
don't know if we need that much information,
Well-
but we'll do our best to make sure that she is safely not employed in that profession.
Orchid will say, so yes, you want her scared out of it or sabotaged without any harm coming to her? She is a very willful individual, so attempting to scare her would probably have the opposite effect. Sabotage is perhaps the more appropriate means of pursuit here.
So the easiest would be then to just have her miss the interview.
No, as I said, she's quite willful. If the interview is missed, she'll do what she can to make a makeup interview.
Is this a limited position she's going for? Because if it is a limited position, well, I suppose we could send someone over there who's better and get the job, basically nap the job away from before her.
Mrs. Jane shakes her head and says, no, I imagine that the studio in question, let me see here, Lock, Cock, Shock, they have
I'm actually gonna pause. Is this a session I'm going to be comfortable playing?
out of character. If
Yes.
you manage to prevent the character from getting too deeply involved, then you should be able to.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay. If you do feel really uncomfortable, though, Twister, please let me know.
Well done.
Okay. But I'll just type it out. The Lock, Cock, Shock is the name of the studio. And you could attempt to do an underworld knowledge, yes. But simply put, I have respected the private correspondence of Posey Piper up to a point, but there have been certain pieces of information I have received, including the name of her contact within said company, studio. It goes by the name of Powell. So the biggest issue here is that the interview is going to be taking place today at 2 p.m. That doesn't leave a great deal of time. Orchid will say, so I also assume it's safe to say it might not be advised to blackmail or pressure the studio. To which Mrs. Jane will say, if that is the method you feel is necessary, by all means, but this cannot come back to Posey or myself. Orchid will reply, of course. With that underworld knowledge, Pink, I want you to also roll a memory roll for me, Pink.
May I also roll the same skills, since I have those as well?
Certainly. So, Pink, as far as you can remember, this place has been. It's been insinuated to have been involved in some underhanded activities, but nothing's ever been substantiated. It's kind of not really on your radar, as it were. El Diablo, Whiskey has no clue about this, unless you want to, like, etch that.
Nope, that's fine.
Yeah, Whiskey's totally oblivious to this. Like, the name, I guess, kind of sounds kind of funny to her. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Nope.
Is there anything we need to know about Miss Piper? Should we need to interact with her? Any drug issues, any sort of medical conditions that we might run afoul of?
Ideally, you will have absolutely no contact with her at all during this mission. She kind of stumbles on the word mission. But why don't you go ahead, out of character, why don't you go ahead and roll, that's kind of a persuasion, so I'd say a leadership role here, Mike.
All right, do I need to roll software to figure out how that's doing?
Yeah, sure, go ahead and roll your software. Okay, you can get yourself a +3 on that.
That's not great for 18 dice.
No, but it'll be enough for Mrs. Jane to say, medically speaking, there is nothing critical to her health. However, as I mentioned earlier, discretion about identity is crucial. So if there is a situation where her health is at risk and perhaps you have to see to it that she receives medical attention. I really don't want it to come to that, but better to be safe than sorry, as it were. If it gets to that point, I expect you to keep private matters private.
Of course. I have no desire, as long as all of our payment arrangements work out fine, I have no desire to be blackmailing anybody for fun or profit. But I was thinking that perhaps we might need to slip her a mild sedative at some point and didn't want to discover that she would have a negative reaction.
I would greatly appreciate it if you did not introduce any chemicals into Posy's system.
Very well.
May I, because I kind of have a suspicion here, can I make some kind of roll to see if there is a family resemblance between the picture provided of Posy and the Mrs. Jane?
Yeah, go ahead and roll common sense, or if you have the Mona Lisa software, you can roll that.
I do not have that, so common sense it'll be.
Someone like Sybil could thread Mona Lisa, and someone like Orchid would probably have a dice pool of 15 for that.
And I shall be doing that. I will be dropping my scan threading.
Whiskey, Mrs. Jane looks decidedly Asian. Posey Piper looks more Anglo-Saxon. I mean, the blonde hair. But then again, people can get surgery, people can dye their hair. So, you know, there's enough similarity that there's a chance, but you have no concrete evidence to suggest that the two are related. Sybil threading a Mona Lisa. So with 4 hits, not bad. Orchid, are you rolling? No. All right. Well, Sybil, from what your analysis indicates, they have.
I haven't actually rolled my Mona Lisa yet.
Oh, I see. You were threading additional. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a rating 5 Mona Lisa. I'm guessing no bonus from analytical mind.
In this case, actually, yes, there would be a bonus for analytical mind.
Okay, so 16 instead of 14.
Bone structure is almost an identical match, and the eyes are also pretty much identical shades of blue. That doesn't prove that the two are related, because, again, surgery is a thing, but chances are good that there is a genetic relation between the two.
Sybil's going to relay that just to Mike through Skin Link. There's a good chance that these two are related.
Mike will send back a Skinlink message that had a feeling. All right then, you have an address for this studio?
It appears to be in the neighborhood of the dogs, and she would bring that up for you as well.
All right, so to keep it simple, make sure things that go safely, number 1, make sure things stay private, number 2, and make sure she doesn't do well in her interview, number 3.
If the interview doesn't happen at all, and she has no reason to pursue it further, would be ideal, but the end goal is that she drops this career entirely.
All right.
Orchid will say, as convenient as it might be to introduce danger to her life to show her the realities of the trade, you would prefer less emotional trauma, correct? Mrs. Jane will reply, as I said, Posey is exceptionally willful. I expect that, well, she is frankly well aware of the dangers and is still looking forward to the career despite the dangers.
We'll do what we can, but it sounds like her safety and your privacy are more important, if I understand correctly.
Mental health and physical health are both of a high priority.
Understood.
So then an awkward silence kind of falls over the table, I guess. And Lewis Earl will kind of look at all of you expectantly. And Mrs. Jane will kind of raise an eyebrow but smile. And will ask, therefore, is that all?
My end, I think so, yes. I suppose asking for Poser Pipey's measurements would not be appropriate.
No, not terribly appropriate. Orchid will say, I suppose we need to go. Only so much time to do this, yes?
Yes, I believe you're correct. And Mike would stand up and offer a hand to
roll
both,
comment-
both
roll com-
Earl and Jane.
Roll common sense before you do that, Mike. I said I wouldn't be giving you people these hints anymore, but seriously, come on. How many times do I have to bring this up?
Well, I don't know. How many sessions have I been in?
Sybil's gonna
Negotiate,
bring
I
up
guess.
what's the
Yeah, there you
payment.
How much are
There-
you getting paid? Put it plain and simple.
Go figure. Mike hasn't been. Really, only 8 for your common sense. I'm a little disappointed, Mike. But is anyone saying that out loud?
Sybil and AR. But who knows how much that's gonna do.
Ocon would speak up. And how much are we being,
Paid.
not paid? What would be a much more high-end term for it?
Well, I think as whiskey is.
Compensated.
Yes,
That was
as,
IC.
yeah, as Okami is looking for the word compensated, whiskey's just going to say paid.
Yes, how much are we going to be paid for our services?
The compensation for a fully successful operation will be 125,000 new yen.
Split between us all.
That's
That's
about
roughly 17,850 new yen each.
I'm okay with that. That's not bad.
I think I would try to get it to a nice round number, like 20,000 each of us. You know, I like round things. Like a glass. Or a barrel.
So is anyone going to try to negotiate a different payment, or is everyone accepting this other than whiskey?
I would say if this turns out to be a straightforward assignment, I believe we can work with that. If, however, there ends up being significant amounts of danger to ourselves, I believe some additional compensation may be in order, should that eventuality arise.
Because you are asking us to go on very limited information, and well, with all respecting your privacy and everything, well, and that of the person we are protecting, well, we are moving in the dark a little bit.
So Mrs. Jane has remained pretty much unemotional during this whole thing, but at this expression from Whiskey and Mike, she's going to steeple her fingers, put her elbows on the table, and lean forward, giving a very intense stare toward you, and say, The only significant danger that exists on this job is a breach of contract.
Well, I have no intention of breaching our contract. Do you?
Then there is
And-
no
and
danger.
Whiskey would,
and she'll sit back.
And at what Mike would said, Whiskey would kind of lean forward in a very similar way and give a very similar look towards Mrs. Jane.
To which Mrs. Jane will cock an eyebrow at Whiskey. Orca will say, "You will have no worries from me."
Whiskey will get a direct message from Sybil's comm link. Do I need to tell Pirate on you?
Whiskey, do you receive Sybil's message?
Yes, I think so. And she would quickly turn to Sybil and go, "Leave her bloody out of this. This is the first bit I have her out of my hair for a little bit."
You think? You turn to the Astros, one of Pirate's watcher spirits watching you from the window.
Oh no.
Very well. It seems that you have decided on the terms of our agreement ahead of time. So until then, where and when shall we meet upon completion?
Payment will be provided to Mr. Earl, who will discuss with you in his own terms how that payment will be distributed.
Very well then.
So, if you attempt to shake her hand, she will first attempt to encourage you to do a traditional Japanese bow, but if it doesn't look like, if you are still trying to shake her hand, she will tentatively extend and, well, let's find, will you acquiesce to a Japanese bow, or do you want her to shake your hand?
Oh no. Mike has about 4 ranks in Japanese knowledge plus specializations. Yeah, he has no problem with the bow. He is plenty corporate enough for that.
Okay. So, she will say just before, like she'll stand up and just before leaving will say, if there are any urgent questions or issues that need to be resolved, Lewis Earl will have an emergency contact number in his person. And with that, she will depart.
Well, honest person, probably. I mean, if it's in his person, it'll be pretty hard to get to, I figure.
The only one here that Sybil hasn't met is Pink.
I'm just waiting to see what Pink is saying or doing. Andre is typing at the moment. And Pink wants a drink. Go figure. Okay, so as Mrs. Jane leaves and basically gets out of sight, Lewis Earl will edge over a little bit so he's halfway between his original seat and her seat on the booth chair. What are those called?
Bench?
Bench? Yeah, I guess bench is the best word for it. And he'll kind of be looking to all of you and say, for the record, I know which corporation she works for, so yeah, it would be best for all of us myself included, if this job goes off without a hitch.
Double or triple?
He doesn't say anything, but he just kind of itches his chin with 3 fingers.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then. Anything you want to add to this, to what she gave us, information-wise?
Only that I've known her for a while, and she's never gone through me for this kind of a job before. She's always been much more above board with everything she does. But I get the impression that this job is really personally important to her.
Sybil's nodding at
Yeah, I
that.
got that vibe too.
Yeah.
All right, then. Do you, we have a contact number for you when we're done?
Yeah, you can reach me at the number that Khaled has given all of you. Orchid will say, I will pose this dumb idea once, and only once, because I want to get it out in front of these people. She would then point to whiskey. If worse comes to worse, we can show her shadow running is more interesting than the sex trade. Only if, of course, there are no other options. And Louis Earl will look at Orchid and be like, I think that
Sybil's
kind of
shaking her head.
that kind of falls under the no physical or mental damage to the posy.
Also, and why are you pointing at me for when suggesting not interested in the sex trade? I could make it plenty well in the sex trade. I already do strip shows, you know.
Mike leans over, whispers to Earl. Is there extra pay for having to put up with dumbasses?
I'm damn sexy.
Orchid will say, as I said, dumb idea, but I needed you to shut it down before one of these suggested it when your voice of reason wasn't around. Louis Earl is going to look at all of you at this point, and really the only one he might seem to have a sympathetic look for at this point is Athena, of all people. Maybe Okami, because they seem to be the quiet and sensible ones here, who aren't sassing or going to one extreme or another. He doesn't say anything, but he'll give you a meaningful look and say, right, well, I suppose I should be off. It's pretty late, and I think I need to get to bed before Monday. It's a work day and all.
I think you're a little too late for that, actually, but good luck.
Have a pleasant day, Mr.
Good-
Earl, and safe travels.
Good evening to you all, and
Sweet dreams.
don't
Hopefully
sleep in.
about me. And he quickly goes away.
Athena gives him a knowing look back and really slowly blinks at him when he gives her the look.
You don't happen to have kinesics on her, do you?
No. But I don't think you need kinesics to understand something that simple.
True enough. Pink's going to ask, does this place have a casino? No, it does not.
No. Just sit here, be quiet. Already private area. We can discuss a few things here unless you all wish that we move to another location before we discuss anything further.
Orchid will snark to Pink, why? It's already a gamble letting you in. To which boring. To which Pink will reply, boring.
Okami's gonna point out, Orchid, you would do very well back home.
All right,
Pretty sure our home is England.
All right, we obviously need to do some research on this company and this woman's contact with it. And we need to formulate a plan. And, oh yeah, we've got like, what? 14 hours to do it?
I think I already know of a simple solution we can get it to if she fails her interview.
I'm listening.
Most interviews for positions of jobs of this matter involves a medical background check, correct? We doctored the well, the files on that.
Possible.
Yeah,
Question.
though I would first figure out how skeezy this company is. I mean, not all those companies are that strict. You know, the more skeezy it is, the less strict they probably are with that type of thing.
That is a good point, but it's pretty clearly the matter of... This is the matter of how skeezy the place is, but it's more of a matter that... Whatever Miss Piper's relation or history with Johnson is, quite clear that doesn't want this to become more of a PR or shame on herself or the other, for that matter.
Sybil's gonna...
This is a matter of keeping face, more than likely.
Sybil's gonna nod slowly. Yeah.
I think there's a little more to it than that, though. That there seems to be at least some concern for Miss Piper's safety.
Yeah, I
And
figure. Sorry.
in addition, keep in mind we also are supposed to make sure she doesn't try doing this again with another company, so that may be a challenge here. Which, admittedly, the doctored medical records idea may or may not help with.
Yes.
But yes, it sounds
But-
like our tech people need to start doing some data searches.
So earlier, I didn't get a chance to read it, but Orchid was saying she'll be on it in reference to doing background checks on the company, and she'll send her agents on an info dump and package that for you on the company. And now she's saying we could slip them information that she's an undercover narc, or trying to be. Pink says, well, we have a team full of ladies. We could pose as job material for that place. She'll say it with a slightly joking tone, but in a bitchy sort of way.
I was kind of thinking of that, but basically my thought would be, well, I'd just upstage the little girl and show her how a real woman handles things.
Orchid snorks to Pink, we have a team full of ladies, and you. Oh, and Mike.
I think a quick and simple issue is to see what what was the name of the company again?
Lock, cock, shock.
Lockcock Shock. It shouldn't be that hard to get a Shadowrun version or quickly just Google the primary website and see what the general material and content is. That tends to help figure out quickly how sleazy they are or not.
Mike, what were you rolling that composure for?
I wanted to have a comeback for Orchid and decided whether Mike would be able to keep his lips shut, which I think on 2 hits and a not a real glitch, I think he'll be able to pull that off.
He doesn't have any negative qualities about pride, does he?
Nope, he's the stable one.
Okay, then. Pink will say, little girl, you are the worst kind of bitch. You complain and moan, but don't have the goods to back it up.
Athena claps her hands really loudly once. Points to Mike. Get a physical examination of the context. And then points to Sybil and says, just start checking out the online of it all. Points to Akami, get the magical bullshit of the place. And then points to Sybil, who the fuck are you?
Sybil, you already pointed to Sybil.
Sorry, Orchid. Points to Orchid and says, and then points, like, it says that, and then points to the Pink and gives the exact same look but doesn't say anything.
By the way, I could maybe, ask the old boss to see if he has any business with this lock, cock, and shock. I mean, it sounds like a type of business he might have, invested in.
Okay. Athena's going to stop looking at the two, look at Whiskey and nod, be like, good call. And then look back at the two, raise her fingers, and continue to point at Pink and Orchid. Apparently, Pink gave the wink to Athena.
Orchid will say, I am Orchid, magical specialist and technical specialist. I have presence in both the astral and digital, with an army of support at my back. And I have worked with this kid before, most likely looking at Pink, with a scowl.
Really? Because right now, the both of you are acting more childish than Whiskey, and that's a stunt.
Is that a comment in or out of character? 'Cause
That
mine
was
out.
100% in character for Mike.
Shots fired.
Nice.
Pink will say, I shoot stuff, lie to people. You get the idea.
Good. Pink, you're with Mike. Orchid, listen to, work with? You're working with Okami, you working with Sybil. Let's get the job done on our limited timeline. Stands up and walks out of the room.
So Athena just fucked off. Orcos will say, fair enough.
Whiskey would look to Mike and go, have her, breast gotten bigger or something?
I actually couldn't quite understand that on my end.
Have her breast gotten bigger or something? Because she sure got no walks to her, bounce to her chest, as the saying kind of goes.
Perhaps she's just more afraid than the rest of us of this particular woman's power. I don't know. Or maybe just, she's grumpy.
Fair enough. I like it.
I've worked with Athena before. She does seem odd behavior for her. She normally does not have such a fire in her eyes when it comes to the tasks at hand.
I'm out of the room at this point. I can't understand you.
Well, you could understand them if you were present, but you're not present.
You're right.
Orca will say, I like her. At least she's driven by more than foolishness.
Well, that makes one person on this team.
Let's see if we can find the
Mike
location
looking
of...
directly at Orchid.
So, out of character real quick, I was thinking that after we finished Istanbul, we might split the Shadowrunners up and do 2 countries at once. I'm starting to think that, this is the team that should end up in one of those countries, locked off from any other Shadowrunners. I kid, because this is super dysfunctional, but I am amused.
Okay, yeah, we just have us suddenly end up in Atlantis, something like that.
I mean, you
Better
do
call
realize
Atlantis.
that this is actually pretty typical for Shadowrunners, both in and out of universe. There's a reason people are like, yeah, Shadowrunners and professionals don't always go together.
BT. There's one that should actually be traded out for another for this group. Trade out Okami for Pirate.
Yeah, but you still have Pirate and Whiskey, and I think it would be a more interesting dynamic if those two were separated again, but Pirate's still constantly worrying about Whiskey.
Just constantly just being Watcher Spirits sent to keep an eye on Whiskey.
Yeah,
And
basically.
Whiskey sending various, basically Tinder links back to Pirates, like, how about this guy?
But Orchid will say, look, buddy, I get things done. I may not always be the most courteous, but I don't suffer fools. A shame, as I keep getting surrounded by them, but at least I get my work done.
Prove it.
Mike, Orchid, let's drop the sass right now. let's be professional about this. Mike, I know I worked with you before. You're a bit more professional than how you've been behaving. Let's just drop it all right now and just focus on this job, because we are on a timetable, like Athena said.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I guess Orchid isn't the only one who doesn't suffer fools as well as she might like.
Thank
Right,
you.
well, I'm calling my boss and everything.
All right. Sounds like Athena wants me to do some physical recon of this place.
Once I get an address of the actual, first we gotta figure out exactly where do people go for set interviews before we can check out where she will be going first. Beyond that, I also need information of where the actual studio is located before I can start astrally and investigating magically the areas.
Well, I got the address, so you can ride along with myself
Is
and
that
Pink if you'd like.
Is that an actual like filming studio, or is that more like where they keep their offices address?
It's where the interview is going to be done, and that's kind of the important one.
Okay.
Orchid will say, I'll come with you in the astral. My army can collect info online.
Thank you.
All right, then.
Sybil, can you please can you as well keep us as informed as best as you can? Should you come across any information we might need to be aware of as well, looking this place up and down?
Civil will nod. I can
Excellent.
do that. And sends out a text directly to Okami. I can do that.
Thank you. Now then, we are on a timetable. Try to figure. Did we also get an address of where she lives? This Piper woman?
Nope.
No, you did not.
So we need to actually post people in every direction then to see if we can find her before she walks into the building.
You could roll a common sense to get an idea for that.
Okay, common
Look up her
sense, logic
face.
question.
Figure out where she lives.
7. I figured that, but I figured that would also be involving breaking into certain brother. Digging into the very well surveillance state that is London.
Mm-hmm.
Which Okami's just like, I don't think that's a good idea, so she would not naturally think of that. 7, 4. One hit.
Anyone else want to make a roll here?
Common sense.
Oh, we just got 4 hits twice.
Okay, sorry for the delay there. Kara, you would be 16 for Orchid.
Alright, she's got all those enhancements constantly activated.
Okay, the problem is here that I don't know if anyone shared the information. So this will have to basically be Orchid rationalizing this, that Mrs. Jane seemed particularly personally vested in Posey, making comments such as Posey's quite willful, sort of thing that perhaps a mother might say about their daughter.
Or sister.
Potentially. So, not necessarily accurate, but an assumption which could be made is that Posey most likely lives in the affluent part of. Okay, wow. What are those sounds coming right now? Andre, apparently. Okay. Posey likely lives in an affluent part of the city of London and will therefore most likely have to travel from a western direction to reach the eastern end of the docks.
Come to think of it, if she's living in some place affluent like that, she will also be having to broadcast her SIN, because you do that in nice parts of the city.
Correct, but we already established that Posey is a alias.
Okay, so if she's not broadcasting using that alias in that part of town, or if the alias isn't as deep as a fake SIN.
And just because she's broadcasting her ID doesn't mean that you're going to be able to detect it. I mean, this city has how many millions of people?
I was thinking more along the lines of a reverse lookup. You know, once if you can find out what SIN she is using, you can then backtrack and say, well, here's where that SIN is right now.
If you have access to a database of that nature, potentially. Orchid will say, if we look into her address, that's learning much more information as well than we are authorized to be privy to as well. But judging by her behavior towards her and the fact that she has any concerns... This is classic example of pronouns that are for the same gender identity, but it's referring to two different people. Or
If
more.
we look into Posey Piper's address, that's learning much more information as well than we are authorized. Comma shouldn't be there. Authorized to be privy to. But judging by
hi, Athena.
but judging by our Jane's behavior towards Posse Piper, and the fact that Jane has any concerns about Posse, likely is traveling far western from the richest district, also trying to watch Posse here might lead to much more trouble than it is worth.
In many, many ways. And it's Posey, not Posse.
Yeah, it's fine.
You're one letter off from something else at that point.
Could we get a pocket full of her?
Nope. It's off the table.
What, pocket full of Posey?
She's not dwarf or gnome, so no, you can't fit her in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And just to spare Twister, I'm not going to say the next thing that popped into my mind. So,
Piper, gotta catch 'em all. That's good and wholesome.
okay, except never mind. Never mind. Who's
Can we get
doing
some
what
data
now?
search rolls?
Right. Someone wanted to do some data search, didn't we?
Okami asked for some, yeah. Guessing we're doing it. I guess at this point we all breaking up. I'm getting into Mike's car and we're heading down there.
Sybil's probably in Mike's car with Mike as well.
You're getting in the back seat.
Yeah, she's probably just laying down.
The point is, anybody who wants to go there physically, which astrally surveilling, finding the place astrally will be a lot easier if you just have to cross the road. Mike has an SUV that will fit pretty much this entire group.
Yeah, going there physically would make it much easier later to come here astrally. So, yeah. That's why I'm coming along. Yeah.
Orchard apparently begrudgingly says Mike's car is nice.
Oh, please tell me your car doesn't weak a 6 with Sybil, by the way.
Nope.
Weeks of his Taylor's pheromones.
At
We had it
best,
cleaned.
yes.
We had it
It
cleaned.
reeks of Keeb.
It is
tech-
true. It will reek of Keeb. Good thing Grim's not here.
Well, if a place reeks of Creed, with Grimm's answer to cleaning that out, then it's just fire and more fire.
So would data search be held by analytical mind?
Yeah, that could be of assistance here.
And she's in VR, so she's got a dice pool of 20. And this is
Would this happen to be the car, Grim, that has lights on the top and a cage in the back seat? I don't think everyone's getting into Mike's car. Sybil,
That was an almost, yes.
Sybil, Orchid, and Okami, and Mike. So 4 people currently in that vehicle.
I think that's all it's going to fit.
it's a big SUV.
Also, where did Athena go off to now that we're heading out to do the job?
She's actually waiting just a little bit outside on a comm link. And then she falls in step with Mike to also go to the location.
So is she going in Mike's car?
Yes.
So it's going to be a tight fit in the back, it seems. Pink will look at Whiskey and say, "What the fuck are we supposed to do?"
Well, as said, I'm probably calling my boss, and well, what we could do is make a drive past the studio in question.
Whiskey, bear in mind it's like 1 a.m. right now on a Sunday.
And they don't have to be open.
Monday, technically.
Oh yeah, but I might not want to call the boss. He'll get pissed if I wake him up too early.
Do either of you have any... Oh,
And Pink will say, "All right, I don't mind writing bitch again."
I was about to say, do either of you have any contacts that you can get in contact with that can help you?
Well,
She was
yes.
just literally just saying she was going to.
I was also referring that to Pink.
Ah.
It's kind of help. It's what Pink can also do to help.
I have 0 contacts here, and all of my contacts operate in the Lambeth, so no.
Wood gets around.
Well, it depends on what business they're into.
Yeah. And
But for Sybil's earlier role of the data search of 6, Twister, I apologize if this is too graphic of a description, but the nature of the business is a hardcore Tridio and SimSense pornography studio, which focuses predominantly, almost exclusively, on female-to-male pre-op trans in pain and BDSM themes.
this is immediately reminding me of a certain studio where we took a guy's leg.
It should remind you of it, yes. Orchid will say to Athena in the car, "I apologize for my snappy behavior in the bar. The one known as Pink, I have worked with her before, and I'll admit she is quite the headache. I was unaware I would be having to carry that weight again, so I was rather short with her back there. I will let you know that doesn't affect how I do my job."
That is perfectly understandable, Miss Orchid. But it is.
She said it to
difficult me-
Athena, and Okami's replying.
Oh,
What the
sorry.
fuck, Okami?
I didn't know that was to Athena. Sorry.
No, you can definitely reply. That's like, I don't know if
That's it. You've got Orchid in the middle seat, and Okami's on her left, and Athena's on her right. So Orchid's looking up at Athena to her right, says all of that, and then Okami just replies all of a sudden.
Actually, Okami already said she's taking shotgun.
Okay.
so
all
she
right.
can't say. Okay, in that
Yeah.
case, you just finish off your spot.
Yeah. That's the reason why I had Okami. Even if she can't see that, she's still saying that out loud because she's paying attention to the front. not paying attention to where you guys are looking in the back. So she thought it was we just think
A
that she was
general
saying that to
statement.
everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sybil will relay the information she has found out so far.
And Athena, did you actually have a reply for Orchid?
So Athena opens her mouth to respond, and then Orchid starts to respond, and she
You mean
just closes
Okami?
her eyes. Sorry, yeah, Okami just starts talking, and Athena closes her eyes, covers her mouth with like a thumb and like you know what I'm talking about, right? We put your thumb in the middle groove of your finger, and just holds it over her nose for a second, and just holds eye contact with Orchid, and then waits. Until Okami is done speaking. And
And then when Okami's done,
it's good to hear that it won't affect your performance. And then that gives a really slow blink, and then leans on her other elbow.
Now, as I was saying,
Sybil has shared the information she's found with everyone digitally.
yeah.
Oh wow! I just noticed that this is the first job we've been on where none of the old crew is taking part in.
Don't know if it's the first one, but definitely no old crew here.
So that's the above board stuff. I would imagine if there are rumors about them being involved in underhanded stuff, those rumors would also be on the net.
No one has any rumors about them being below board. Pink, like I said, for Pink, it was like some people talk about it, but there's no real connection to the underworld.
And Sybil wasn't able to dredge up anything with her data search.
But what I've already shared is what she retrieved.
So, Okami would mention then makes sense as to why someone who seems close to someone would not want them working in that kind of field of employment.
So I guess we read for Pink.
Well, that Pink and Whiskey, I believe, are alone right now because everyone else is fucked off without them.
Yeah, I think Whiskey kind of suggested that they basically just look up where that place is and basically scout out the neighborhoods and the place and everything.
All right, so Pink wants to know if you want to get alcohol before you go to scout out that place.
Yeah, driving with an open container when the thing you're driving is a bike.
I'm from Lambeth.
Yeah, I suppose we could grab some drinks, yeah.
All right, so I want both of you to roll composure for me. Pink, yours will be at -2. And Whiskey, do you have alcohol as an addiction?
Yep, a moderate addiction.
Moderate, so that's a -4 to your composure, I believe. Well, bravo, Pink. Bravo to both of you. Damn. So you can both drink in moderation. Congratulations.
Wait, Whiskey actually understands the term moderation?
Well, she is on the job right now, so, she'll have a bit of a drink now. She'll go do something, go home, have another bit of a drink. You know how it is.
Another bit being a quarter of a bottle.
Yeah,
She's
that
a
was
troll,
I think. I
whole
think the
bottle.
range of moderation with whiskey is a little bit bigger than the average person.
It also depends what you're drinking.
still, the two of you are wasting time drinking when you could be working. So feel free for the two of you to just sort of have a conversation, if you'd like, while the rest of us are doing actual activities for the job. So who's doing what and where?
We were driving towards the address we were given for the studio, or at least for where they're doing the interviews, so that we could scout it out physically and astrally.
Did Sybil... Would I need to do another roll to see if there's any corporation that owns Lock, Cock, and Shop?
It is a subsidiary of an umbrella company that is known as Pulford Entertainment Incorporated.
That name rings a bell.
A big one. Gee, I wonder if we could find out the owners of that umbrella corporation.
Most likely the contacts that Cozy had.
No, I mean the owner of Pulford Entertainment Incorporated.
Do you think the two of you can do a bit of mining for that? Because I think this is going to easily lead us across this pond, as it were.
Yeah, I'll do a background check. I'll do a data search on Pulford Entertainment Incorporated.
Pulford Entertainment Incorporated is a limited liability corporation that is based out of a series of offices at the address of the Hammersmith, and they're numerous subsidiaries that range from wholesome family entertainment. That's their official name for the company, up to and including businesses that are, well, that make Lock, Cock, Shock look tame. All of it is completely legal, of course.
Yes, of course. Sure it is.
And basically, the company has numerous, like the subsidiaries have different contact information for them. So obviously, there's a great deal of employees that are below Pulford directly.
And who's the face of the company?
Well, there isn't a face of the face, but Pulford Entertainment Incorporated, LLC, the primary shareholder is, of course, Pulford.
Is there a picture of him?
You'll have to do another data search for that.
And I shall do that.
Yeah, because we don't see a troll who's missing a leg. Someone's taken over, and I think I know who did.
No, this has absolutely... You really... All right, so who has the shittiest memory here? Let's find out. Pulford is Whiskey's boss.
Oh, Hammersmith. Sorry, for some reason I was thinking it was Forge. My bad.
So with that new data search, 9 hits.
So yeah, for those who don't happen to remember what Pulford looks like, that's what Pulford looks like. Oh, and this is what his left-hand troll looks like, Beckett.
Well, you have a really easy way of doing this then.
or a really easy way to get ourselves in a lot of trouble when Pulford decides that it'd be better if we didn't do what Miss AAA wants.
We don't have to get Miss AAA involved at all. We just say, hey, we'll give you some money. Never hire this woman or get her blacklisted.
Bear in mind that Pulford doesn't have a monopoly on this kind of business. Even if he refuses to give her an interview, doesn't mean that she's going to be suitably redirected from that career path.
Now, just to make sure this, the fine print on the job was to make sure she never does this again, or just to make sure she fails this interview?
Never
Latter.
tries it again.
Well, this interview is the priority. If you can make sure that she never does this again, all the better.
That's actually, the latter part is actually probably a more interesting idea. You know, well, I don't think you're out for this role, but, you know, we're owned by a larger company, and they've got some other entertainment divisions that I think you'd be perfect for. Might actually be a legitimate idea.
Are there any tasteful ones we can possibly recommend under the LLC?
Well, according to Sybil's research on it, that there appear to be businesses underneath the umbrella that are wholesome. I mean, literally one of them is called Wholesome Family Entertainment.
And watch, that's the kinkiest, most disturbing ones of them all. Just as a joke.
Maybe it's just the whole family being involved.
Okay, let's not go down that route. That might be too dark for Trista.
That's too dark for me, but with the name Wholesome Family, maybe.
Let's not scar Twister any worse than you have to.
Yeah, at the moment, we seem to just came across a really easy way out of this. We just have pull some strings with Pulford, giving him some money or some favors, and we can easily have him deny her or get her a job somewhere else that's more legitimate.
Potentially. Again, it depends on if Wolford realizes that we have a reason for asking this. He might not just roll over and say sure.
Might end up having to do a couple of jobs, no questions asked later, but
No, I was thinking he might to know who this woman is and why we care and yada yada yada.
And remember the last time you got jobs for Pulford?
robbed a place and oh yeah, the issues with. Well, pirate. Actually, no. Okamu's not aware of the whole entire thing with the Baron and stuff like that.
Neither is Sybil.
But I think most of the other crew it was, so. Pink whiskey, yeah.
So, Sybil, are you sharing this information with everyone or just Mike?
Everyone.
Whiskey, Pink, are either of you paying attention to the messages you're receiving, or are you focusing on your conversation and your booze?
It's a pretty
No.
good conversation.
Well, yes, conversation, but I figure since, well, they passed their composure check, Whiskey would definitely check on the messages as well.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so the two of you are now being informed that the studio, which will be conducting the interview, is owned by Pulford. How do you two react?
Should have bloody fucking known. I kind of suspected it, but yeah. Pulford's gonna handle all of that business in this town. It's a shame it's so late, as I would have called him already, but You don't want to piss off call the old man out of bed. He'll I've heard tales. So yeah, she'll respond. Whiskey will respond that all right, I'll definitely call up the boss then when he wakes up, specific, and basically accentuate the when he wakes up part.
I don't know if that's such a good idea. If we get Pulford involved, he might start asking questions we really don't want to have to answer. Last thing we need is to get our protectee underneath Pulford's thumb.
Well, at least Whiskey. Well, at least we can easily place some people on the inside, as it were. That'll be an easy enough thing to do now. Whether we know this.
That's true. I'm just saying,
Heck,
maybe
I could possibly
don't
just
immediately
walk
go
in
and
there.
tell him first thing he wakes up. All right, so how about we get back to the physical recon? How's that going?
Oh
Well,
we're
bearing
just-
in mind how quickly VR goes, Sybil collected this information in less than a couple of minutes, so you wouldn't have been able to get all the way across town just yet, even with driving on the highway.
Well, we're just preparing for that. Basically doing a briefing amongst ourselves, getting ready to, set up what we really want to look for, though. Not with this information, that might need to change a bit.
It's moments like this that I wish we had direct neural interfaces in real life.
Yeah.
No, I'm quite happy that I don't have to live with that.
Well, you don't want to be wired to the rest of us, Twisted?
Correct.
What's wrong with that?
Do you want me to start issues alphabetically?
I'm not 100% sure what Pink is saying here in the context, but she ties her hair up and says we probably shouldn't overdo it. The runt will get annoyed. Overdo
Probably the
what?
drinking.
The drinking.
Oh, okay. But anything else any of you want to do while in transit to your destination?
Since they're hearing that information before we get there, do they tell us this information?
Sybil shared the information about Pulford to everyone, and Whiskey, I believe you said what you said into the open communications channel.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry. So we do know. Sorry.
Yes, it'll keep everybody informed about what she finds. Does anybody
Yeah,
have any
yeah.
suggestions as to what she should search for next?
What else he owns?
She did, and we found out that there's like 30 subsidiaries of various different entertainment companies. With like one of them called Wholesome Family Entertainment, which
Yeah, no,
that site hasn't been updated in like 7 years. Whereas the sites that are frequently updated are the ones that are the least wholesome.
Disturbingly makes sense.
Sorry, so did anyone? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Twister.
I was going to say, with that information, I'm going to ask if the other ones in the car recognize the name, because I only know him from the one thing, whiskey.
Whiskey did just say that it's her boss.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. So you're asking verbally in the car to Okami, Mike, Sybil, and Orchid, do you guys know Pulford?
Yes. That is what I'm doing.
Well, it looks like Orchid's going to have something to say on that. She will say, to a degree.
I know his establishment, but I don't know the man personally.
Sybil will second what Okami said. I've been there, been to the Hammersmith, never met the man.
Yeah, I don't think I've worked any jobs for him directly. You know, worked a few jobs with Whiskey, but nothing directly.
Let me rephrase. Does anyone have any new information that they know about him? Now that we know that he is directly involved.
I can give you a pretty. If
Do we
this
have
is
any
open
new
public.
information that is relevant potentially to the job?
Almost sounds like you're baiting for something in particular here, Athena.
Sybil's gonna do another data search to see anything that Pulford has been up to lately.
Well, have you put this on the com? Because Whiskey happily will tell you all she knows about Pulford.
Orchid will say to Athena, no, other than he might be keen to work one over if he ever has the leverage to.
Snake among snakes, then. But how
Yeah.
Okami would then describe him on that info.
And Sybil, the quick search of Pulford online will basically come up with search results that indicate that he is a legitimate business owner and that he is legitimate and he pays his taxes and does absolutely everything that he is supposed to do by the books.
Oh, great. So he's got enough money to influence that. So it looks like he's clean.
Thing is, if I remember correctly, he is. Because he keeps. As soon as something comes up if something else is made legal, he puts that on the books. Yes, I serve this now. But it's under the books, the thing, and under the radar, mostly. That we got to worry about.
He's good. He's good at keeping things compartmentalized and secret. Is basically the gist.
Also, he's pretty scary. Which is why I don't want to wake him up in the middle of the night.
Do the shadow boards still exist in 4th edition? I'm just asking from me recently playing the Dragonfall and Hong Kong games.
Data havens. Yes, they do.
Okay. Could one of you access those and see if anyone has been saying or talking about anything going on with Pulford on those kinds of boards?
Do you have a subscription to any of those boards?
I was asking the other people. I know Kami does not.
Okay. Pink will ask, couldn't we just tell him not to take her in? And I don't know if someone's explained this in character yet, but that might prevent her from taking this job. But the best way to impress a AAA Johnson for this particular job is to make certain that Posey does not take any jobs in this career path. So, sure, you could stop her from working for Pulford and get your payday. But if, like, a week later she's banging on the door of some other studio and getting hired, probably not going to endear you too much to Mrs. Jane.
I believe
It's a matter of
I
Sorry,
believe
Hunter.
I believe Mrs. Jane specifically said, "Keep her from doing this again. That is our job."
I think actually
She didn't just say. She didn't say just stop this interview. Stop this interview and keep her from doing it again.
I think an easy idea to maybe scare her off is to see, well, what type of business this is connected to, i.e. my type of businesses.
Oh, you're saying the how deep the rabbit hole goes, as it were.
Yeah, basically show the mafia, like the crime connections to this adult entertainment.
But then we gotta take into account if she seems like she's doing this to get away or to snuff at the person that's trying to get us to stop her from doing this, considering that it just might push her more forward to do this because, oh, you're gonna aim to misbehave, you're gonna go the full way.
Orca will say, well, let's try to think about this. Why does she want to do this? The excitement? The rebellion? Or perhaps she just needs to feel validated or banged. We could offer better alternatives.
I'd also find it interesting that she would come to a studio that seems to focus on, what was it, female to male trans people?
Male to female, but yes.
Male to female, oh, alright.
If I did say female to male, that was a mistake on my part. Male to female.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think you did say female to male, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, my thinking, and this is Okami saying in character, my thinking on this is that she probably doing this to be shame herself and those close to her be a disgrace, as it were, to be an embarrassment, which makes the person's position who hired us to stop her from doing this, well, in the eyes of the corporation, not good to be an embarrassment in any formal way.
But again, if all they were worried about is her simply embarrassing them, they have other ways of handling that. Many of which do not involve the constraint of make sure she's unharmed.
And you don't think that familiar relations could get in the way of this?
Sybil's finally gonna come up and admit to what her Mona Lisa software found out.
So that it's not concrete, but the two do have very similar bone structure and their eyes are an identical shade. Or identical hue, rather.
Yeah, it's a 90%, 85 to 90% chance that they are related.
And given their respective ages, mother and daughter.
Or aunt and niece, depending.
Yes. Yes, but there's enough though that there is there's a high probability of close blood ties. And when you start dealing with those, oceans start getting in the way of common sense thought.
Depends on the person. Trust me, I've seen some people who would have no problems brainwashing or assassinating a family member.
And Orca will say, so she's probably rebelling. Right. Perhaps we could steer her to other routes of self-destructive behavior. Or maybe she just needs attention.
I'm
Well, we
also
want someone to
figuring
be
this is
Direct her to gambling, maybe.
A Bob and then El Diablo?
I was about to say, well, if we need someone to teach to other routes of self-destruction, from what I've been able to understand, I believe whiskey might be a good teacher in that. I think this is all being told in the group. Just make sure you guys are being informed.
And El Diablo, you had something you wanted to say?
I think this is maybe delving a bit too deep into the girl's background, but maybe we should also maybe look into what type of friends she's got, because you know, having bad friends is generally a way to steer you into bad things, while having friends telling you not to do something is generally a good way to not to get things done. If you get my meaning.
So Whiskey is advocating that we look into this person's background, that we follow what Mrs. Jane said to the letter, is you shouldn't look into her background, but you won't be punished for it. But if you reveal anything about her background, then the punishment will be severe. Additionally, Orchid will say, or get her a hot date. She points towards Mike and taps on Okami. Think about it. Dark, mysterious elf swoops in, rescues her from the mundane life she had, shows her a good time, many good times, hooks her on him instead of on bad businesses. And Pink will say, I could take her to some gambling places.
I think you all are overlooking another possibility here.
Sybil does not like Orchid's idea. But go ahead, Mike.
This studio specializes in pornography starring female to male transsexuals, or male to female, correct?
Correct.
Now, why would someone who looks female be interested in a place that has that specialty?
I don't see how that's relevant. I don't see how that's relevant.
And Orchid will say, okay, fine. We get her hooked on Pink instead. She passes.
My point is, her motive may be something at least more complicated than simple rebellion. You know, something tells me there's not a whole lot of transgender people in the corporate, the AAA corporate world at high levels.
Out of character depends on which corporation.
Yes. And then you gotta take into
Evo is 100% A-okay with it. Horizon, they're okay with it too, as long as when you get your surgery that you look exactly like the way they want you to look. However, the Japanese corps, Ranraku, Mitsuhama, they tend to be a little more conservative.
Yeah, so depending upon which corp her potential mother works for, this could have less to do with rebelling and more about finding some place where she can be herself, and maybe make some scratch to finish a gender transition.
Problem. It is going that deep into the personal information. It's revealing information we were clearly told not to get.
No, you were told to avoid getting it, but definitely do not reveal it. Mrs. Jane did make that distinction to you, that she understands that to do your job, you might have to invade some privacy. She doesn't like that idea. She understands it's a possibility. But if you do that, do not reveal the private information you get, or else you will have earned Mrs. Jane as an enemy. Go ahead, Sybil, and then I'll read Orchid.
Sybil is going to do a data search on Mrs. Jane.
The name Mrs. Jane?
The image, the facial image she got with Mona Lisa.
Okay, so go ahead and make that roll. Hunter or Twister, were you about to say something?
Yeah, it's probably a bad idea. But go ahead. Do it. I'm not there to say no.
Right. Orchid will say, okay, so how exactly do you propose we solve this? Drop a therapy shop's business card on her lap?
It's less about that and more that if we go in assuming that her motives are simply to piss off Mama, and those aren't her motives, we're going to fail. We need answers before we start making assumptions, which get our asses in a sling.
And there's just as easy solutions for your assumptions. We try to see if we can set her up with a job where it's more friendly there as a model agency that deals in those kinds of wares, which I'm pretty sure it's common in Shadowrun that there's people who like specialty fashion in those kinds of things, both high end and low end.
I could even get her some stripping jobs back at the Hammersmith, really. I mean, there's a stage for that.
Whiskey, sometimes you have a very special brain.
But my point is, we
who's
can't
the
know
back-
the right answer unless we know the motive. So we need to do some. We need to find out more about this woman.
So who's in the backseat of the car that can see Athena?
Orchid and oh no, Sybil's in VR. So Orchid.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm paying attention to the road, and so is
Yeah, and you're also not looking backwards.
so it's
So-
only Orchid's the only one who can see.
Okay.
It would be possible looking at you.
Yeah. So
Sybil
at this
could
point,
at a-
Let Athena talk. Hunter, let Twister finish.
Orchid sees Athena's face slowly get more sour. Because we're theoretically exercising without actually moving forwards at all. So at a certain point, she just like speaks up and is like, if we think that's the direction, we can move in it. She doesn't say anything.
Orchid will
Pulls her
say,
ear pierced out.
Orchid will say, okay, well, what if we get Whiskey to make a priority meeting as well, delaying her while we get to investigate her as a last ditch?
Sybil's gonna speak up. Do you want me to investigate
No,
Mrs. Jo-
no, Sybil can't speak. She can send a message, though.
Yes, she is.
Okay,
That's her
she's-
way of speaking.
So she's sending a message.
Do you want me to find out who Miss Jane is?
I'd rather know more about Miss Posy Piper. Miss Jane can keep whatever privacy she wants for the time being.
It would be best that we do not dig into the personal information of a AAA person. I would agree with Mike on that.
Okay, so she'll switch to doing a data search on Posy Piper using the Mona Lisa.
Okay. Orchid will say, I can scan over her astrally, worst comes to worst, and see for myself what's going on. And no, of course not, to Sybil. Why would you even suggest that?
Because right now we have nothing to go on about who these people are. We don't know any reason for this at all. Like Mike is saying, we need to know reasons.
Well, fuck off.
Dibble wants all the reasons.
Right. Well, Sybil, at first you're searching for that face online, and you're not getting anything from primary sources. So switching into secondary sources, you find some instances of her face that showed up on websites that are now defunct. So you do some research onto those websites to find that they were basically the storage depots for social media and dating sites. And looking into those, you'll find that those sites recently had variations of the name Posy Parker or Piper, or sorry, Posy Piper, or variations of that name were accounts that have been recently deleted or otherwise closed. But eventually, searching and searching and searching, backtracking and backtracking and backtracking, you'll eventually stumble across some information that links Posy Piper to shit. I seem to have misplaced the family name. Shit.
Is it Johnson?
No. It's a Japanese name. Fuck, I can't remember which way is which.
In Japanese, last name comes
Yes.
first, second name comes
But-
first name comes second.
But I'm trying to figure out if it's
Is it AB or BA, basically?
more specifically the meaning of the name and its most common gender association. Actually, this will probably be an ideal time to take a quick break. We'll see you all in about 10 minutes.
I was just going to suggest.
Yeah, yada, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we got the name. Inke Ogawa Smythe is the daughter, and because you just got so many hits, you were able to get this person's dead name, which is Izu, is the child of Gerald Simon Smythe, deceased due to suicide, and Ogawa Akima. Akimiya. I don't know how to freaking pronounce this. I'm sorry.
Akemi?
Yeah, that's probably more correct. Thank you. So, Sybil, are you releasing all of this information?
Yes, she is.
All right, so now all of you know information that if it gets out, you're all up Schitt's Creek.
Then clearly we should make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, my mouth is shut and sealed on this. So now, do you happen to know what AAA corporation that name is tied to?
EVO.
Charming.
Just left Russia too. This is a tunnel.
To be fair, the part of Russia that EVO's corporation is in is bordering the body of water which Japan islands share.
Yeah, I know. Just like, okay.
Well, I'm just happy it's not Cedar Group.
Yeah, everyone's happy when it's not the dragon.
Well, me specifically.
Orchid will say, well, I wish I hadn't known that, but on the bright side, if we need more human connection between someone making contact, I too am half Japanese, so perhaps if worse comes to worse, I could talk to her. Out of character, who's gonna like jump immediately to say, no, that's okay, you don't need to.
Well, actually, you do bring up a point. One thought I actually have, I could possibly, I mean, it'll probably be a favor, but I could maybe try and arrange to have, instead of the standard guy doing the interview, have one of us be the interviewer for Miss Piper. And then we can, well, just take that interview as an opportunity to basically talk her out of all this.
I think that's the smartest idea Whiskey has ever enunciated.
It's
Well, I went to the
up there.
bathroom. I always have good ideas in the bathroom.
Far into the distance, back in her apartment, Pirate just has this massive migraine and this chill went up her spine, as if someone's walked over a grave or hell froze over. That's something.
Or Whiskey had a smart idea.
That all over that Whiskey has had a smart idea. It's just like, wait.
This is the second time that's happened, actually, because I remember making a similar comment about Mike at one point. I think in
Yeah.
the last mission.
But yeah, that's highly reasonable if you can get that arranged.
Preferably without going through Pulford. And Orchid, no offense intended, but you aren't exactly a people person.
It will probably require some pushing. I can't promise anything, but I can try.
Do you think you can find any messages or social media with the original name?
The dead name.
Devil will do another data search. Ah.
Orchid says, I suppose that's fair. Besides, if we want to work the not quite what she once was angle, we should go with Pink anyway. Sybil, basically the dead name is only in use on the locked and sealed version of Gerald Simon Smythe's account. And most of his account is redacted. Basically, it appears that you'd have to breach Evo Corporation's data haven to find out what information used to be on his live journal that the company basically put a great big digital black marker over.
Which is kind of odd, I'd imagine.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe not. I guess if he was saying some things that the PR people would not find appropriate,
Oh,
maybe they
speaking
would
of
have.
PR, your Mrs. Jane Ogawa Akami, PR department.
Great at
Another
working with
reason why
people
she-
except her own flesh and blood.
Another good reason is why she doesn't want to risk anything that could be considered shameful.
Also, another question that has come up. How old is Posse Piper? Or
Old enough for the pursuit of the career she wants, just barely.
Old enough to move out?
Yep, as well. Orca will say, I don't find that surprising at all. At least you're starting to learn your limitations. Good girl. Oh, because Pink asked, was that an insult? I can't tell. All right, so these two are now at each other's throat digitally. But for the record, the mother of your Posey, so Mrs. Jane, respects the current name of Posey, does not use the dead name. If the dead name was ever used, it has been edited.
So perfectly accepts of her son's choices as
Daughter.
until it can. Oh, sorry, daughter's choices. Until it gets to the
Well-
point where it's a potential risk.
Yes, yes, up until the point of becoming a locally
issue.
famous or internationally famous porn star, that's where Mummy draws the line.
Which, to be fair, there are plenty of parents who would, agree with that about any child.
as well as you know, this might indeed be a very skillsy base, given that it's associated with Pulford, who might have criminal ties, and yeah, do you really want to get into that environment? Or have your child get into that environment?
Pink mumbles under her breath. Stupid pint-sized cunt.
So, yeah. So we gotta do this with a lot of tact.
Or you go a complete 180 and you do what Whiskey suggested.
Which thing Whiskey suggested?
That
The
one
small
of you sits in the interview, and instead of handling this with tact,
That would probably be Whiskey, then the one with the least amount of tact.
I'd vote the exact opposite.
I would vote Mike.
No, we're looking for least amount of tact.
so there you go. That's what you do with Orchid. Send her in to conduct the interview. Fuck.
No. Okami even has Orchid is even below Okami on that.
Yeah, Okami doesn't have the uncouth negative quality, does she?
No.
But
Just racism.
But I don't think Orchid would be old enough to be in there.
Further proof of just why she might not want to work for that company.
She's totally a kid.
But in all seriousness, yeah, there's obviously a basket full of issues here, but it also looks like neither mother nor daughter wants to completely ditch the other from their lives.
There is, well, I also have another idea. One that is probably a very bad idea. But I could voice it if you want to.
Voice it.
We kill everyone at that studio and have her come around to, well, a bloody massacre. That'll scare the kid off.
Mental well-being is important.
We're not
not
pulling a
massacring.
scorched earth policy.
Yeah, and who do you plan to murder here?
Everyone.
Oh my god.
I told you it was a stupid idea, but it was asked to be voiced, so I voice it.
Well, also from what what our employer said, that still might not drive her away from the profession, just the studio.
So the best bet we can have is either try to get her a job somewhere where it's less of a PR issue when it comes to her mother's status, or one of us becomes the interviewer and talks her out of it. So far, these are the two options we have.
We have 3. Talk to the interviewer, convince him he doesn't want to hire her, and make him know that he wants to make her feel like this is not the work for her.
That's possible, but then we do put our trust in, well, honestly,
No.
I don't expect this to be a very trustworthy, likable person.
Well, you know his direct boss.
Hence why I'm saying this.
Yes. Convince your boss to convince him that he does not want to hire this individual.
That part's easy. That part can be done.
Good.
It's the
Problem
part where you
is-
trust another person to convince her that she doesn't want to do this type of work. That's why I have my doubts.
Plus,
For
there's also the
trusting
fact.
others.
Plus, there's also the fact of letting Pulford know about her.
Oh, you don't need to let him know why you don't want her hired. Just let him know that you have a history with her. History with this individual, and you want them to not have the joy of a job.
But again, that only prevents her from getting this job.
Yep, and you know what that does? It buys us time.
Mm.
What are we short on right
Mhm.
now?
The other issue was what I personally observed is that we get access to the. If this place seems as legitimate as it does, they probably do have certain medical stuff they have to follow by, and if we make sure she fails the medical tests, then she
That's
doesn't get
also-
approved. Yeah.
That's also temporary.
Yeah, that just means then she just goes to less legitimate
And who's to say that they don't already have the medical info?
It's gonna be pulled up during the interview process. So if it's altered and changed, it could be used then, because that's when it's gonna be probably reviewed.
Says the woman who has no experience with sexuality.
But probably has been working in an office environment.
Okami? Office? I thought she was a Miko.
Eh. Well, she's had to work
Maiden.
somewhere in the.
Doesn't maiden imply virginity?
No. Well, no, it depends. Actually.
In this case?
She is a shrine maiden, so
Yeah. You telling me nuns fuck? No.
In Shinto, yes.
I was gonna say I am fairly certain that in Shinto a oath of celibacy is not required. It may be undertaken, but definitely not required.
Yeah. And even then, it's only based on certain gods and certain blessings you want from the god by offering something of yourself up.
So anyways, about the plan, I'm still mostly pro for trying to impersonate the interviewer, and that way having a talk with the girl directly. And yeah, even if we can always, even if we don't convince her to stop doing this, we can at least refuse her, and then, well, we also have more time.
That sounds like a plan. Probably with me sitting in as the interviewer, because maybe I can sit there and pick apart some motives a little. But
Orchid will ask, so like, what cut a deal with your boss to let us interview her?
Pretty much. Heck, I could even possibly just walk up to the place, say who I work for, and kind of try to just push for what we want. So that last one is riskier.
Out of character, I just realized it's been a while, so during all these conversations, you've most likely reached the address, and the the building in question is this one here, attached to the buildings over here as well. It's a very large combination, residential and commercial, not quite an arcology, but one step removed from an arcology.
So this would probably be where they have the studios, the editing areas,
Well,
stuff like that.
looking at the address more closely, you realize this interview will be conducted inside an apartment.
That's sketchy.
This might be both an interview and the first episode of her career.
Well, why do you think Mrs. Jane was so adamant about stopping the interview from taking place?
Yeah.
Also, I pretty much expected this. I mean, if it's for this type of job, I mean, you don't just want to have see how a lady talks, you also want to see how a lady performs.
well, since your boss sounds like such a trustworthy guy, let's do our recon here and then maybe see if Whiskey can work her magic and get us assigned as a substitute. You know, throw Pulford's name around, see if that can get some progress. But first, I believe we have some people who wanted to do some astral recon.
Okami when you look over at Okami when you say that, Mike, she's just gonna have a raised eyebrow staring at you, and she's gonna comment, "You're looking to substitute?"
Well,
I know blondes
not
are
for
your
that part of the
thing, but is she
interview,
gonna be okay
actually.
with that? She just nods towards Sybil to comment, "No, you liking blondes."
yeah, and 100% female. No offense to Posey.
Man, flexible. She's a bit too young though.
Okay, just gonna start actively perceiving the area, seeing what's going on around here.
The building appears to have watcher spirits patrolling it, but no ward.
Any clue on the tradition of the Watchers?
Hermetic.
Okay.
They look like the wage mage traditional, someone paid to put them out here. It's
So-
London after all, so
Yeah, so-
magical security, this is the bare minimum.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear that this is, yeah, just your basic magic security there. So, okay. You guys want me to go deeper? Because if I do go deeper, I'm gonna have to start destroying some watches not to get caught.
Well, won't that tip off whoever the Watchers belong to?
100%. Just wanted to see if you guys wanted to go all in.
I was wondering if maybe there was a quieter option that didn't involve, is there a way to sneak past them somehow?
Is there a character?
Do you have masking as a meta magic?
Uh,
I know somebody does.
I think I do. Let me see. Where's my magics? Masket, psychometry, and invoking.
Orchid will say, I can try.
I can go. I can go with if you guys want. I can also try to get some more in-depth history of anything we come across.
And Sybil volunteers to throw in her drone.
They probably have physical security to keep those out, but maybe you can do some scans and stuff on the building, see if there's any open networks you might be able to finagle the security on.
Sybil nods. And dropping the data search thread. Not a glitch. Okay, so rating 5. Three hits.
There is a massive number of signals coming from this building because it's a combination residence/commercial complex. You'll have to be more specific about what you're looking for.
Cameras.
Oh, there's plenty of cameras.
What kind of security levels are we talking about here?
Again, there's so many different devices. You're ranging from things that have a firewall of 1 up to things that have a firewall of 6, possibly 7.
Can we locate for the apartment that the address is to?
You'll have to do another roll.
Another scan.
Okay, so you kind of get a idea of the shape of the area based on the rough estimate of, where the door for the associated apartment is, kind of logicking your way or intuiting your way, since of course you are a technomancer, that there's probably 7 devices in that apartment, which are complex devices, so comlinks, SimSense recorders, things of that nature. So a rating of at least 5, and then probably 30 plus low to medium
Appliances.
peripherals. All of that in the apartment.
Going through the low to medium peripherals, is it possible for me to analyze if any of them are cameras? Then she can get a view inside.
Basically, that's going to take a while, so I'm basically going to let you just sort of buy the hits, but it's going to take you quite some time. So, what was the group's decision on Orchid and Okami?
I believe it was, if you think you can sneak in without, raising all sorts of chaos, then give that a try.
I'll try as well. I'll just use masking to make myself look like as something else, or as weak
Well,
version.
what else? You should specify. Same for you,
I know.
Orchid. Orchid, your dice pool will be 18 when you make the roll.
Okay, I can make myself, the best I can do is make myself seem like a magically weak spirit or awakened animal. Or astral creature.
Yeah, if you can do what Ort's suggesting, that sounds like it'd be the smarter idea.
I can only mask my magical essence by my initiate grade, which drops it from 6 to 3. So I'm still would be nowhere near a Watcher Spirits level.
And then maybe something that matches the tradition, so you look like something that the same mage summoned.
Yeah, what I was going to do is just try to make myself look like a Hematic mage, a weak one just going in through here that's just like extra watch to go in with the, instead of the Watcher Spirits.
She had 5 edge, actually.
So what was the roll that she just did? Sensing?
No, intuition plus magic plus initiate grade.
Okay. Intuition plus magic, that's 10, but it's 13. Okay. Plus pre-edge, which makes this 17 so for E.
You're in the perfect place for that, then.
8 hits.
Okay, so what are you two going to do now?
Guess we'll just walk through and just take a look around.
In other words, you're going to sense?
Yeah.
So, Kara, sensing 8, or if you're doing it actively, 12.
Oh.
Very impressive for the both of you. All right. So, in the specific apartment, you will find this fella. He is asleep right now. His aura is magical. He is an adept. He has the signature trait, it appears, of being a adept of the what's it called? The way of the face, or the way of the
Speaker's Way.
Speaker's Way. Thank you. Yes. He's got a relatively clean aura, although there are some splotches here and there from, drug abuse, or not, recreational drug use that has kind of tainted his aura slightly, but hasn't caused him to burn out or anything. No implants to speak of, and you can tell that despite his career, his aura is still gives you signs to him being a decent human being. He looks very much unlike what Pulford's aura would look like. Well, yes, he is a casting couch, but there is a sweetness, a kindness to his soul.
Like maybe he's the kind of person, if we informed him that this person was doing it out of, kind of mommy issues rather than actual genuine want to be in this line of work, might be willing to try and help us out with that.
Difficult to say in that regard. Of course, he is asleep and he is dreaming. So maybe that's just his dreamed facsimile of himself.
So maybe when he's awake, he's a
Facsimile.
complete asshole.
Could be using his adept powers to make himself seem like that passively, though.
True, but he is unconscious.
Isn't the way to do that passively as an adept? Even unconscious?
Masking takes active conscious use of the power, which the two of you are doing right now.
Okay.
Advanced masking could theoretically be running while unconscious, though, but he doesn't appear that powerful. His magical acumen is less than half of either of you.
Because of drugs and stuff you mentioned.
Well, no. Even his default power, he's not that powerful of an adept.
Okay, so he wasn't that powerful to begin with, and that's been slightly lowered due to some essence loss. Okay.
Well, like I said, it's not full-blown essence loss. He's not a burnout. It's basically just patchiness to his aura.
Okay.
Like if he continues on this life, he might be headed for some essence loss.
Precisely, yes. And one other thing that you both pick up about him is that he does have a certain subservient bend to his personality. He obeys he is prepared to obey if the right kind of conditions are met.
So he is naturally submissive then?
Not what I'm trying to get at. More along the lines of, if Pulford tells him to do something, he will acquiesce.
If his boss says jumps, he says how high.
So is Orchid saying this specifically to Okami, or is she returning to her body and telling everyone? just to Okami. So Orchid will astrally say to Okami, well, we could plead to his sense of not total asshole. Like maybe we convince him that we are looking out for our favorite friend and her needs to call off the job. Or call his boss and pull some strings.
It could work, but if he has to pull the strings and Polfoot says no, what we detected would mean that he would just go through it anyway, no matter what we say versus what Polfoot says.
Orchid will reply, well, we be convincing, and maybe trade whiskey in the process.
The drink or the troll with the mouth?
Oh, this is astral communication. You know exactly what she's saying.
Okay, good. If you see the little one with the red hair, tell her I did not, I was not a part of this decision.
Orchid will say, it's called being a team player. I'm sure she's taken many for a team or 2 or 10.
Yeah, she does give off the vibe of being the town's bicycle, as the saying goes around here, I believe. I think we have some information to go through here.
Yes, let's head back.
Go back.
So you've returned to your bodies. How much are you telling your teammates?
Pretty much what we learned of him, but I don't think we're going to be talking about anything that we've said about people's character. But the idea of, yeah, we can probably get him to do here, but if Fulfoot says, do it anyway, then he's going to do it no matter how much we get him to agree with us.
So Whiskey and I go in and say that we have a message from Pulford.
Alright, that was what kind of what I was thinking, yeah.
Could work, but there's still the risk of him just calling or asking Perfect just to make sure.
Do you want a safe job or do you want a Shadowrunner job? There's always going to be a risk.
I know, I'm just trying to cover our bases here.
Orca will say, so yeah, turns out the couch boy seems like not the worst dude. Like I would probably trust him more with babysitting duties than Pink. But yeah, he is a bitch to Pulford. He will do whatever he asks. Well, that's up to you, Whiskey. Did you and Pink finally get on your motorcycle, or are you still camping out at the bar?
No, I think they would have gotten on the motorcycle and headed off to this place in meat space. Hello, am I pressing the right button?
Yeah, no, we are hearing you. I'm just seeing if Fatal Child is typing a reply. Pink will say, Kid, do you ever keep my name out of your mouth? Do you have a crush on me or something?
If she does, you two just fuck already and get it over with.
Orchid will say, "Oh, wow, didn't think you liked me like that. Oh, good golly gosh, let me find a fuck to give. Shit, can't seem to find any. Sorry." Orchid, what would Merlin say about this potty mouth of yours?
Athena claps. Let's get back on topic. So, are we moving in? Are we getting an actual excuse to move in first? Or are we finding a different step?
Whiskey, how trustworthy is your boss?
I think well, we already know anyone who was on the last job automatically knows Whiskey's boss is willing to stab us all in the back.
Yeah,
On
but
the
only
flip-
Whiskey
on
and
the
Pink were
flip
actually on
side-
that job. And Orchid.
On the flip side, he did come through with us with that 15k that was originally promised. I think basically for him it's if it doesn't cost him any money or trouble, he generally is fine to let things go as they are. If he smells an opportunity for big cash though, then he gets untrustworthy.
So yeah, let's keep him out of this, because child of a AAA exec, yeah, that sounds like exactly that kind of situation.
Though on the flip side, he is smart enough not to mess with powers that could mess him up. So he might be just as scared of the AAA as we might be.
Do you trust him to be as scared of the AAA as he should be?
Can I make a roll on that? To figure how scared Pilford might be of pissing off an Evo AAA.
Roll a judge intention for me with a bonus equal to your loyalty.
I think the mass majority of people would not want to be pissing off a AAA.
Yeah, this is a question of whether or not he's dumb enough to.
Okay, so it's self-preservation.
Can I edge that?
If you'd like to, absolutely. Pulford's the type that if he knows he can get away with it, he will do it. However, he needs to be confident in his ability to get away with it. On top of that, he has a bunch of subordinates, people that he will use to get these things done so that he's insulated if there is ever backlash. So it's not like he'd go up against Evo. He'd basically be sending Powell up against Evo. And if Evo gets angry, oh, it's all Powell's fault. I had nothing to do with it.
So we always make sure to have a fall guy.
Alright, so yeah, Whiskey would relay that to Mike and the others.
I'm looking more for a yes/no.
I would figure he would try to screw something on this, so I would not trust him with his information fully, honestly.
That's a no. Then we should come out of it as best we can.
Alright.
Whiskey, how many of the people in this group that you look for are aware of you or know of you?
Everybody, I think.
I figure I do have a bit of a rap, but I do not know if every job thing here knows me. It's the like where this fellow is. It's definitely not my usual neighborhood. I think.
Sorry, you're saying Powell?
Yeah, where Powell is. I figure that's not.
He's
the usual
literally down the
neighborhood.
street.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is where Powell is. This is the Hammersmith.
Oh well, then he probably knows well of me. Then.
You probably serve him drinks when he goes to have a drink.
Except he doesn't. Powell is his form of entertainment is not in Whiskey's part of the building.
But they've probably seen people since Whiskey's near the front door.
So it's probably getting around to be 2 a.m. right now in game.
Well, so yeah, I suppose a big neighborhood investigation is not really needed. I suppose I could check out the building.
But if this is the kind of neighborhood, you would be not that much of an uncommon sight in this neighborhood. Best for you to do the flesh walkthrough.
I will state that basically the Hammersmith is right on the border between the Dogs, the West End, and or is that the East End? Sorry, the East End, the Dogs, and the Docks, the Dockyard, Docklands, something like that.
Dockland, I think.
All right, so it sounds like we have something that resembles a plan, but it doesn't sound like we're going to be able to do much about it until people start waking up and we can start talking.
Well, if we go to sleep, we're probably not going to wake up late, so I think it's best we all just meet up at a place at a 24-hour diner or something. Just try to
What,
find
you don't know how to take a nap? Orchid will, or is Orchid still? Orchid and Pink are still going at each other, everyone. I think at this point, most of you are just sort of ignoring the two of them.
It's sort of
Bingo!
just become like the ambient background noises at this point, just like cats or pigeons, that kind of thing.
Well, they're doing it by data, so, we're all having civilized conversations and we're just watching the data feed out of the corner of our eyes on our AR.
Well, no, it's like using TeamSpeak. You basically right-click on their name, set volume to 0.
No, I wouldn't do that just in case one of them does have something to say, but maybe set volume to 1.
Just enough so we can hear they say our names or something. Or we're just constantly seeing the notification feeds of just like, this person left a message, this person left a message.
They're not Sybil. They can talk.
But if this is going over the data, it's going to leave the notifications, I think.
At a certain point, when we have basically reached a conclusion, Athena is going to put a hand on her shoulder, on Orchid's shoulder, leaning close, and ask if she is suited for this job, and then pull away, and then tab into the microphone, and be like, Pink, are you working on this team or not? How to get back to my computer to make it so I can actually read the responses. Can pass my glasses.
No, it's sorry, Twister. I can't pass you your glasses.
Well,
In fact, we're good.
right there.
In fact, we're gonna take those glasses from you and put them in some Jello and let the
I
Jello
will
sit.
throw you off a balcony. Swear.
I approve of this. Let's see how well you can do it, throwing a bob off of anything.
I mean,
He's
I
physically fit, but I probably got 100 pounds on him.
I mean, I have no idea, but my day job is literally lifting 120 pounds.
That's what I
just
said, you're
walk
physically fitter than me, but I got 100 pounds on you. And I probably wouldn't
You
be
can
as
bend with my
eaten,
knees.
wouldn't be like dead weight like a crate of something is.
Yes.
So when Pink gets cut off by Athena, she'll say, "Oh, sorry, who are you?" And Orchid's reply to Athena is, "Oh, of course." I think it genuinely motivates her and makes her feel like she's contributing something. I'm just trying to make sure she has something to work toward rather than slipping away to run off wild like last time. This is a well orchestrated containment strategy.
Generally motivates it. Just a second, I'm rereading. So Athena is keeping a grip on Orchid's shoulder at the moment. You have some of, but here's the thing: is that Athena can crack. I'm pretty sure without any effort, a shoulder right now, but she doesn't know where Pink is. So I'm guessing I get Pink's response first, right? And they're both in text.
No, because Orchid literally said it to you directly.
Oh, would say. Okay, so I respond to that one first.
And Orchid would follow up with, "Look, you know her type. I'm a badass when I'm going to prove it. I'm a badass and I'm going to prove it. By motivating her, I ensure she has to try to best me and make sure at least she doesn't screw up. And as I won't screw up, that will ensure things run smoothly," is Orchid's explaining to Athena vocally rather than digitally.
Okay. I made the mistake of lying down while listening to everything, so I'm having a hard time with my eyes at the moment, so just a sec. Going from near black to a bright white screen with tiny black text is not the greatest transition.
Yeah, it sounds like you're starting to crash.
No, oh no, I should be fine for a couple more hours at the least.
Well, I won't be, but
That's fair. So Athena releases the grip after she finishes and is like, if at the end of the day she needs to be motivated, when we meet at insert name of whatever the fuck it is, I'll try to motivate her. And then turns on her comm, is like, you don't know who your team is. So the last thing you should be doing is trying to anger them. Currently, the closest thing you have to a boss. Out of character, I know that's kind of pushing it, but she's hoping it works anyway. Actually, that is a very good question, Mike.
Orchid's ego, as far as I understand it, this is literally what she believes.
Just checking. The fun part about being lied to by people who don't realize they're lying.
Yo, who in the Shadowrun community, everyone in the Shadowrun community is completely 100% honest and truthful and will never lie.
Mike will tell you to your face that that's not true. I'll lie and manipulate you if that's what it takes to get a job done.
Of course, Okabe would say that in the most sarcastic, heavy tones, though. Like, so thick you could cut it and just use it to, like, butter your toast with if you wanted.
You can't butter toast with cheese. Okay, anyway, Pink will say, "Lady, none of you introduced yourselves to me, so why should I go out of my way to introduce myself? I'm just here for money, and no one is my boss except for the Johnson and the Fixer."
Who brought her in this mission?
He just sort of showed up.
Is this talk going on the public bit again?
Yeah, at this point it's public. She's asking.
Okay.
Sybil looks at Athena and shrugs. Or would if she wasn't busy doing other things.
Orchid's going to say over the comm, "No, I'm going to say this Athena lady is pretty much on top of things here."
And honestly, everyone here except you, miss, have brought something to the table to help get this job done. You've just been sitting in the background listening.
Sorry to interrupt. Can at this point all of us be moving to that 24-hour pub? So we can congregate at least
Dino,
once.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, the five of you could if you'd like, if you're done with your reconnaissance at the building, but Whiskey and Pink were still on their way to the building.
Aye, pretty much. And let's not... why are we wasting our time beating up on each other, trying to psychologically deal with, manipulate each other and whatever, when we should be just focusing on the little girl that's coming up, and the fellow, and my boss who has been known to beat people to death with dildos.
Wait, what?
Well, yeah, that's one of the more famous stories about Bullfoot.
That sounds like a very long process.
Bob, do you even realize what you just did?
Yes, I know I used the word long, but still.
That
it's
was
still
probably
bad of
the
fact
point,
that-
so to speak.
From what I heard, it was a pretty long, big black one.
I was referring to how much time that would probably take.
Oh yes, it took hours. Extremely agonizing way to go here, really.
Pink, rather belligerently and angrily, says, "Bitch, I'm here to shoot things and make sure none of you fucking dies. Honestly, do I care if you die? No. Do I have ways to research shit? No. Do I have magic? No. All of you just left us at the bar."
Which bar? The one that we had the initial thing at?
Correct, yes.
Because I gave her admittedly vague instructions. I didn't just leave her there.
No,
Holy shit.
Pink's the only one you didn't tell to do something.
Yeah, I asked what the two new people were, and she said that she shot things, and I said, "You're with Mike." Technically.
Except you guys filled up Mike's car, so she couldn't go with you.
Yeah, okay. That's where I miscalculated.
And we are
Yeah,
actually
God
the
forbid they
underground
follow us on their
scouting people.
motorcycles.
In my opinion, we probably should have had Okami go with Whiskey instead. Because Okami can be here in, 30 seconds? Astrally?
In any event, what's done is done at this
Yep.
point. So,
Well, here's the thing, basically. I think at this point, once Sybil is done with her electronic reconnaissance, we could probably all go crash for 4 hours and then pick back up around 6, 7 a.m. when people are actually, not asleep.
Well, I also like to have a physical idea of the building. And, I don't know, you, Pinky, you come from a crime-ridden hellscape. You probably know how to pick a lock or door, right?
she says, yeah, mostly shitty ones, but I can pick a lock.
Well, it's better than me. I usually just smash doors down, so that's handy to have with me.
You guessing that would fall under escape artist?
No, lock picking.
Oh, does that still?
Locksmith.
Oh, locksmith. Okay, it's exactly true. Never mind.
So yes, when they arrive at the building, I think they would first, at least Whiskey's idea would be first to basically just go around, look for entrance, look even for what entrances there are, including possible fire escapes.
All right. So for that, you'd be doing visual perception rolls, bearing in mind that it's nighttime. Granted, there's suitable light, so I think honestly, pink. If you don't have low light or thermographic upgrades for your eyes, then you'll be at a -1.
I have thermographic vision.
Aye, as a troll, you always do.
We'd have to
Unless
get
you're
Cyber
blind,
Eyes
sure.
and then not the thermal option on them.
Or unless you go blind.
Or you get biological eye replacements.
Yeah. Also true. Yeah, the cat
Yeah,
eyes.
My cyber eye doesn't have. I only have one cyber eye, but that'd be my-
Also, check glasses or contact lenses if you have anything that offers low light or thermographic under gear.
And vision enhancements, that's just adds as normal.
That number of dice, yes.
Okie doke.
I do not have. So that's my perception +3 for active.
+4 for active.
Yeah, but the -1.
But the -1, yeah, okay.
Ugh.
Wow, do you want to edge that?
Honestly, she's probably just too busy arguing over that comm like to really pay attention.
That was quite close to an actual glitch. But yeah, Whiskey, you're basically going to wander around the premises and you'll find that there's guest parking, there's residential parking, there's employee parking, and there's underground parking. There's security cameras on the outside of the building. There's even some people coming in and out every so often, even at this hour, just because it's such a big building. There are some main entrances that have little magnetic fobs to get in and out. You could potentially try to wait for someone to show up and follow them in. People tend to be It's a question of whether or not they'll be polite and let you in, or if you look suspicious and they'll like slam the door shut. And there are also a couple maintenance stores here and there. The maintenance stores look like they need a traditional key and a magnetic fob to get into.
Maybe Pinky, you could look at those maintenance stores, and I could try and see what the foyer or something like this looks like. Basically, Whiskey wants to take a look at, well, what type of security basically is there to allow people in. So is there a face cam, or is it just a voice
Like I said,
ringer, or...
So there is a fob system. So you have a little magnetic chip that you slide in front of a little panel, and that will unlock the door. But there is also a box where you can dial a number, and a little camera set up on that, so the person can watch you when you call them.
And then they
yes,
can buzz
okay.
you in.
All
Do the
right.
maintenance
Well,
stores
Whiskey
like
will
some
take
things?
note of this and report it to the rest of the team, as it were. And yeah, basically, Whiskey would tell Pink to maybe check out those maintenance logs a bit.
Do they look like something I'll be able to open? Because I don't know if I can.
You can pick the lock part of the door, but the magnetic fob part, you'll probably need a hacker or someone with a mag card emulator to help you with that.
That sounds like the one person she.
Well, that's probably a job for the tech guys, but that does mean we could also, if we can't convince Paul in the morning to let us in, we could possibly sneak our way in through there.
But yeah, if someone hacks into the door and I pick the lock, we can get through here. But
That sounds
We
like
can
a
handle
good.
that.
Yeah, it sounds like a good alternative option if the diplomatic way fails. It's kind of a thing in this whole thing, really. If you got a backup plan, it's really good to have.
mhm.
Because I already feel in my guts the first plan is probably gonna fail, as good as it is. I'm going to make a quick knowledge literature check.
Literature?
Yes, Whiskey has knowledge literature.
But for what purpose?
To see if she comes up with smart quotes from a book.
Wait, Whiskey knows how to read?
Even your sister is shocked. Yeah, no, that from Serenity. Or
Yep.
was it Firefly?
Serenity, the movie.
Right. The way I remember it, the albatross was good luck till some dumbass killed it.
I think some old general in the past wrote down that very few plans actually survive combat.
There are definitely windows on this building, on people's balconies and up along the side of the building. The foyer is also got ballistic glass for the entrance.
All right. So, anything else we need to do before we find out about Sybil's scans?
Well, you'd also have to potentially break one of those windows, but yes, you could try to scale up the building and hope that you can get into someone's balcony if they didn't lock it. Nope, because that has internal fire stairwells. But all right, so Sybil, you were looking for cameras inside this guy's room or any other useful peripheral device. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. There is a camera on his comm link, but the comm link has decent firewall, about 5. There is, however, also a Roomba. It doesn't have a camera, but it does have a sensor suite.
So basically, I could use
the Roomba's security is 2.
So basically, if I were to hack into the Roomba, I could use that to get a sensor map of the room where furniture is and all that.
Essentially, yes.
I'm gonna exploit that. I'm gonna try and exploit that.
The Roomba is currently slaved to the Central Home Network, though.
Yeah.
Central Home Network has a firewall of 3.
Then, if I were to spoof a command and pretend I was the CHN, would that work?
Let me just double check how many hits did you get on your last roll. 8 hits? Then, yeah, you feel confident you could spoof the Roomba.
Spoof it in. I want to send a spoof to scan the room.
Just so that you know how that works is if you spoof that command to the Roomba, it'll do as you asked. However, it's going to send the information to the Central Home Network because the Central Home Network was what, quote unquote, gave it the orders. So it won't send that information to you. You could, however, tap into the line to eavesdrop, basically. So when it sends that information to the Central Home Network, you'll be able to overhear it.
That actually sounds like something she would do too. So she would like to try and tap into the CHN so that she can listen in and then spoof. So I'm guessing that would be an exploit. Well, first, I'm gonna.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry. I was trying to say use Sniffer to intercept wireless traffic, and then you would do the spoof after that.
So threading a Sniffer. And yes, I am dropping the scan. keeping the 3 hits. It was I take no damage. Then I'm going to I'll keep 4 hits for a rating of 7.
You're taking
take
1 point of physical.
No, that would still be stunned.
No, it's physical because you're going into, like, your resonance is
I'm over
5,
6.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
So
my
now it's
submersion grade count to that at all?
No, not unless you take an echo.
So, for rating 7, does analytical mind add to this? Is it collecting
No.
data?
This is analytical minds for piecing together information. In this case, you're basically just, putting a cup up to the wall and listening in.
And I have no edge. So, spoof.
Oh, just a second. Let's see if this was effective. It is effective. You are able to listen in.
Now I'm going to spoof the command to the to scan the room to the Roomba.
Bear in mind that your sniffer needs to remain active, so you'll be at a -2 to thread spoof.
This is not a thread.
Oh, you already
I
have
have
spoof?
spoof.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But still, it's going to be at a -2 because you have to keep sniffer running.
Okay. And I'm still in VR, so it would be 14 normally plus 2 for VR, so -2, so 14. 3 hits.
The Roomba does as instructed and begins a process of driving around the room and collecting information. It's probably going to take half an hour to complete this task. But I think it's about time we wrap up. So is there any other specific activities any of you want to do before we finish?
Nope.
Nope. Once we get that data, we can honk out for a while, get a little bit of sleep, and then resume.
Just get like a 3-hour nap.
Yep.
Or approximately 1 week. Just under, in fact.
Bitch, please.
God, I could use that long of a nap.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I feel you. I touch
Mister-
you. I mean, what?
If you slept that long, you would die of dehydration.
Oh, not unless you get like injected with a saline thing.
No, that's also beside the fact that you're not exerting the regular amount of energy because you're asleep. It's like a medically induced coma. So you'd be fine for a lot longer than a week.
Well, it depends if you fed and watered yourself sufficiently beforehand.
I
mean, I
do
did
enjoy
just eat.
sleeping.
Sleeping is for the weak and cats.
Well, yes, and you don't sleep on the weekend because you're too busy doing stuff.
That's
I'm
accurate.
usually working in the weekends, so
Exactly, you don't get to sleep. But yeah, thank you all for playing tonight, and I hope this wasn't too squicky for you, Twister.
Nope. This so far has been fun.
All right, so I'll be sure to get into graphic detail about what. But no, not really. Just
Well, Depending on never mind. Never mind.
well, oh, depending on what details I give, is that what you were going to say?
Not in the slightest.
I
It's-
do look
never
forward
mind.
to talking with Miss Piper. Or Miss Oganawa, I think it was.
Just be careful what name you say to her, because
That botches the entire mission if you say the wrong name at that exact moment.
Well,
If not
I pretty much will probably only remember the we'll do first. But yeah, I look forward to that part. So I hope we'll get there. We might not get there. Maybe this will all end in a shootout. Who knows?
I
If
don't
it
want
ends
to
in a shootout, we failed.
Well, it depends on who you're shooting. I mean, after all, a couple of you have enemies.
Oh no! I have a lot.
Well, we
of
never rolled
enemies.
for that, did we?
I roll that secretly.
Alright.
I have 3 enemies, so there's a chance.
We could always
Damn.
shoot the Johnson, and then we wouldn't have an enemy.
But then
Remember,
we
the
get-
Double has
enemy
the one.
negative quality can only be removed with karma and then role play.
Well, that would prevent it from forming in the first place, right?
Yeah, and to get the karma, we need to get rid of the enemy traits. We need to do the bookkeeping.
Yeah, that's true, because Whiskey is still in the negative money right now.
Right. So I screw up. I gotcha. Well, on that note, good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
User in your channel stopped
Look, that's not what I
Good
meant when I
night.
said that.